Today is Sunday, November 10th, and this is another update on my progress beating the S&P 500 along with Bill Ackman's Pershing holdings. I do make these videos every Sunday and Tuesday, so if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. The only sale that I've made since my last update was I closed out of my position in Hasbro, which I sold at an 11.96% loss. They reported their earnings towards the end of October, and ever since then they've been falling behind the markets. So instead of waiting for it to rebound, I decided to sell out of it completely and spread that across my other positions that are already doing well. With the Hasbro money and some of the cash that I already had on hand, I increased 7 of my positions. I increased Costco by 20%, PayPal by 15%, and then Microsoft, Nvidia, Shopify, Walmart, and C3 AI all saw a 10% increase. I do believe that these are all very solid companies, which is why I feel confident investing more even as the markets reach new all-time highs. So this is going to be what the VIX chart looks like right now, which shows future implied volatility in the markets. Back towards the middle of October, I thought that the VIX chart was going to show downward pressure. From that point, it actually reversed and moved higher, leading into the presidential election and the Fed meeting. Now that both of those are out of the way, it actually has dropped down into that range that I was looking for it to go into. The lower the VIX number, the more confident investors are in the market. So for the rest of the year, if we continue to trade in this range, I definitely see the markets moving higher. And this is going to be what the SPY chart currently looks like. As you can see, the markets have had massive gains over the last couple of days. The results of the presidential election, along with Jerome Powell cutting the federal funds rate at the November meeting, are certainly driving the markets higher. For the moving averages, right now they're exactly where we want them. The SPY price sits above the 5-day, which also sits above the 15. What's also encouraging is that the SPY price broke above this trend line, which it was able to do previously towards the middle of July. And at that point, that was the new all-time high for the S&P 500. I wouldn't be surprised if on Monday we open up and try to test this trend line. I do think that there's a lot of optimism surrounding the stock market and the overall economy. So I would be surprised if in the short term, when it did test the trend line, if it actually fell below. And if for some reason it did fall below, I do think it would only be for a day or two before ultimately getting back up above this trend line. For my year-end S&P target, we're actually in the range right now. It would only need a 0.3% gain to reach the very top end. I am going to keep my price target in the same spot, but I'm starting to realize that there's an actual possibility that the S&P 500 finishes well above that range, which is why I felt comfortable increasing those 7 positions I mentioned earlier. These are all my current positions. Right now, Nvidia, Amazon, Microsoft, Shopify, and Meta make up my top 5, and those account for 46.95% of my portfolio. Right now, I have 88.23% of my portfolio invested, which means I have 11.77% sitting in cash. Since Wednesday, my portfolio grew 3.37%. The S&P 500 saw a gain of 3.7, and Pershing had a gain of 3.9, which brings this year to date. Right now, my portfolio has a gain of 26.73. The S&P 500 is at a gain of 26.41, and Pershing is at a gain of 3.93. That's going to do it for today. I do make these videos every Sunday and Tuesday, so if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on Tuesday.